Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Life Lesson 101 and welcome to the Purple Chair.
Thanks.
Jenny.
Charles.
Jenny Harland.
Charles Humphrey.
Oh, shit. It's got an S on the end. Jenny, you've got a story that is actually, I wouldn't say it's unique in any way in terms of what we see today in our society of illness and maladies and what have you, but you are quite special, though, aren't you?
Yes, I've always been special, but my situation is special because I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, which typically affects people over 50, women over 50.
And you're what, 49?
Cheeky. I'm 35 and I was diagnosed when I was 34. So I've had stage 4 cancer for a year now. But I have a very rare form of cancer which affects typically women in their 20s to 30s. So I think it's 1 in 1,000 women get the type of cancer that I have.
1 in 1,000 women.
Yeah, so I was just one of the lucky ones, I guess.
What's it like to feel special again?
I know, it's great to feel special.
Yeah, I know. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you in here, Jenny, is because you are a delight. You have this kind of buoyancy to your character and personality. And I wanted to encourage, or at least show that there's a way forward. In spite of all that we face as humans, as women, as special women, with a special cancer, I wanted to show that there is a way through it. So, you know, you said last week you had a little interesting thing happen to you. Could you share everybody with how did you spend your day?
Well, it's an interesting one because sometimes with this cancer you'll feel like you're absolutely fine, and I can go for days on end. I can go to music festivals. I can go travelling. I can do all kinds of things, and then every so often something will just spark up. So I have mass in my ovaries. I also have tumours along the lining of my abdomen and in my lymph nodes. And I also have a 3 centimetre tumour next to my rectum in my bum. So I've always known about this because it shows up on the scans. And I remember my oncologist telling me and thinking, oh, that explains a lot. When I first got diagnosed, I had some digestive issues. That all makes sense now. But then for some reason on Friday at work, it just decided to flare up. So I'm going about my day and doing my normal things. And all of a sudden, I just had to kind of turn around to my manager and say, I've got a pain in my butt. I have to go home. So I went home. I was like, I've got to go get into some track pants or something. So I sat down at home and spent my entire weekend sitting on a hot water bottle, eating tramadol and codeine, and I think it lasted about 2 days. But one of the annoying things about when something flares up like that is that you're kind of sitting there thinking, is it going to go away, or is this going to be like forever? Do I go to A&E? Are they going to be able to do anything? For me, having surgery is really risky because I've got cancer in my lymph nodes, so it can cause it to spread all over the place. Right. So if it doesn't go away on its own, then, I mean, the other alternative is surgery, and obviously I don't really want to do that. So yeah, I spent my whole weekend sitting on a hot water bottle, and to add insult to injury, I managed to burn my butt on the hot water bottle. So now, although the tumour pain is gone, I have blisters all over my bum. Now you spend another week on ice. Yes, exactly. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think the sensation of a hot water bottle is very soothing on the tumours, but actually it's probably enjoying it a bit too much. And now I just want to sit on ice instead of a hot water bottle. It's quite ironic. Yeah. So take us back to that initial time. You know, here you were, free spirit, as you obviously are. And then you get this news. And what happened? Just tell us a little bit about how that opened up for you. Yeah. So kind of where it started. Yeah. Well, I had symptoms for over a year, probably about 2 years. What are those symptoms? So the symptoms of ovarian cancer are bloating, fatigue, pain in the lower abdomen, in strange menstrual cycles, that sort of thing. When you say strange menstrual cycles, you mean? So just irregular. Irregular, right. But interestingly, I went to the doctor quite a lot just because I had pain, and I think the symptoms were a bit different for everyone else, and a lot of bloating, and the symptoms are very alike to things like IBS, or like so many people have gluten intolerances, or think they do now, or inflammation in the body now.
I mean, it was really funny because when you said, I have bloating, I mean, I know I have no ovaries, but I immediately
you're like, hang on a minute.
Wait a minute. No, but I gave up the gluten. But,
yeah, well, that's it. And I kind of made that joke with my other half, because when I went to the doctor backwards and forwards, and they were like, cut this out, try this, try that. And then when we finally got diagnosed, I kind of said to him, there ain't no amount of gluten-free bread that's going to fix what I've got.
Yeah, that's right. Bring this slightly. No, use the arm.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. It's all right. Just slightly closer. I know they can be obtrusive, but intrusive, not obtrusive.
Not a fan of the microphone. I'm just going to forget it's there.
That's all right. No, it looks great from the angle. Honestly, you look good. You look good anyway.
Thanks.
Oh, stop. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I went backwards and forwards to the doctor. I had scans. Nothing showed up in the scans. There isn't a screening process for ovarian cancer, which is another problem, because early diagnosis, most people only get diagnosed at stage 3 or 4, and by then the life expectancy drops dramatically. So
I mean, that's a real fear, isn't it? I mean, that is in front of you. Not to go off topic too much, but do you think about that daily?
The life expectancy thing? Yes, and I think it's a very finely balanced thing, because recognising your own mortality is probably, I don't find that the hardest bit for me. I'm not so scared about my life ending, but it's the people that I'm leaving behind. So that's if a sad song comes on the radio, or if I'm talking to a family member or my boyfriend, that's always what really gets me. That's what always makes me feel really sad. Whereas I don't know if I've quite got my head around the concept of my own mortality yet. And I think one of the things about this whole cancer journey, and I hate saying that, but it just seems like the easiest way to describe it, is that these things kind of come out a bit later. So you don't process everything all at once. It's like you get diagnosed, and then it's like you've got cancer, and everyone's super supportive, which is amazing. I've had so much love and support. I've got such a great network here in New Zealand. But then you go back to work and you're in year 2, and it's like everyone just forgets, and that's fine because you want to get on with your normal life. But a whole bunch of emotions and psychological stuff that comes later on with that kind of hits you later on. Like now that I'm back at work, I'm a little bit more aware of mortality, because I love being back at work and I love living a normal life, but it's also like I'm wasting precious time that I could be doing something that I absolutely love, or travelling, or so it's a fine balance between enjoying being back to normal life and remembering that life isn't about just going to work and doing the 9 to 5 and that sort of thing.
So reflecting on that, I mean, that's a really good lesson for all of us, really, isn't it? This idea that we don't know our own demise. We don't know when that will happen, but we do know it happens to everybody.
Yes.
So being able to say, what the value is, you're actually in quite and I hate the word now, but you're in a privileged position.
Yeah.
Because having to face that in life, and it's a very real thing, that the idea of saying to yourself, is this important? What is the value?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, I think, is one of the gifts of cancer.
One of the little things that have changed is now whenever we're talking about stuff, we stop ourselves and go, if not now, then when? And that's something that we never used to do. It'd always be like, tomorrow or next week, or when we've got the money, or, when we've got the time, or when we can be bothered.
Right.
And now you kind of weigh up what is important first. And then when you find yourself saying something that's important that you want to do or that you've got planned, you kind of stop and you catch yourself and go, well, then if not now, then when?
I mean, you're on your way to the world of music and dance, aren't you?
Music and dance. I'm off to WOMAD.
WOMAD, yeah.
Interestingly, I went last year as well, and I'd just been diagnosed.
Sheesh.
So they found out I had the cancer because I went in for a fertility treatment. So me and Shane have been trying to have kids for probably a couple of years, and we both always said, if it doesn't happen, then it's fine. We weren't I'm not going to say we weren't trying that hard, but we were, because we were.
You have just told the world.
We're having lots of sex. No, we weren't. I'm not the kind of person. I know for some women, like being a mother, they feel that defines who they are. But I don't think I've ever really.
At least a great portion of value to them, isn't it?
Yeah. So for a lot of women who can't have kids, it's quite tragic. You know, and
devastating.
And I was devastated when I found out I had the cancer at first. But I don't feel. I've kind of found it quite easy. I think easier than some might to be able to separate myself from that idea and be like, okay, well, you know, it might not have ever happened anyway. So, and now, if I was to have children, say, perfect scenario, got the all clear, could have kids, my ovaries working again, then there's still a very high risk of reoccurrence. So I think only 15% of people who go into remission don't reoccur.
Right.
So the idea of then having a child and putting a child through all of that, that's like a whole other thing. So in my mind now, I'm like, I don't even want the children because I feel like that would just be just so unfair on them, like going into that, knowing it and then having it happen. I would probably feel awful, you know. So we went in for fertility treatment. That's how they eventually found the cancer because you can't screen for it, through a keyhole surgery. And I went from going in to find out why we couldn't have kids to being woken up and told you have ovarian cancer. And my first thing that I said was, can I still have kids? And Shane thought, that's the oddest thing that you said that. But in my mind, I'd fallen asleep with this on my mind. And this is the other journey we've been going on for like 2 years.
Right.
So I think it was just I woke up and the ovarian cancer thing hadn't even hit me. It took me probably about 3 weeks of just grieving the loss of the idea of having a child.
Right.
Which I think I've dealt with now. Yeah. So that's how we initially found out about it.
And of course, you know, nobody actually can view that, can they? You know, off camera, we spoke earlier on around, you know, the idea of, you know, a bald head, but no one actually views the loss of your, you know, the facility for children. Yeah. You can't view that.
Yeah, it's all inside, you know. And I mean, people are still having kids all the time and you can't be upset, you can't be sensitive about that because it's life.
Yeah,
and it's
you can't take
thing.
offence to other people's I don't know, triumphs or
that's their joy, isn't
their
it?
joys. Sorry, I couldn't even think of it.
But it's also, I want to share in that. I don't want people to shy away from me and be like, oh, look, Jenny can't have kids, I should be so insensitive.
You know, like don't mention the war.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a typical Monty Python. But in actual fact, I mean, that's a very real skit for Monty Python, isn't it? You know, when do you become able to participate in conversation without offence? Yeah. It just never happens, right? Yeah. So somebody has to face you and you have to face them and be willing to say, do you know what? It's pretty fucked up. Yeah. But I ain't going to take it out on that person. Not going to take away from their joy. You take away from their joy. Now, look, you said something funny. You know, you said you didn't actually like the word journey. No, it's kind of a bit of a cliche in the whole cancer world. Something that my but I was just going to say something that my wife said. She said when she got cancer, she got breast cancer. She said, it's not a fucking journey. She said, I didn't buy a fucking ticket. You're like, I'm not on holiday. Yeah, that's right. But she said, later on when she wrote her blog, she said that it was a magical mystery tour. And she was right, because she didn't know what was coming next. Yeah. So tell us about when you think it's all going perfectly well, something weird will happen. Like your butt will start hurting or your ovary will twist. Yeah, right. Yeah, so you're diagnosed. Oh, yeah, sorry. So I'm going off track a bit. No, it was me who took you off track. But I was diagnosed, and then after the keyhole surgery and everything, I went to WOMAD because we had the tickets booked. So it's been a year. I was diagnosed in February last year. And last year we went, and it was the point where we'd found out I was... At the time, they thought I was stage 3 because I hadn't found the cancer in the lymph nodes yet. So we thought I was stage 3 and we knew I was going into chemo. So it was like this in-between couple of weeks. And I was like, right, we're going to WOMAD because what else are we going to do? So we got a big group of friends together and just like had a really good time. But I'm really looking forward to this year because this year, you know, I've already been through everything and I'm feeling much better and... Yeah, it's going to be different. I'm keen for WOMAD this weekend. I'm going to really live it up. Oh, I imagine you would. Have a lot. There's going to be a lot of dancing. I couldn't dance last time because I was still quite swollen from the surgery. So I'm going to be doing a lot of dancing. I bet you are. Yes, I am. Matter of fact, it's quite funny. We were at the the Wellington Botanical Gardens Summer City Festival, and that's when you first introduced yourself to me.
Yes.
And there was, so I must tell you, there was this strange woman who sat on the floor in front of me and said, "You're not Charles Humphreys." And I honestly thought I'd got lucky and there was a date. But what was interesting is that you were so full of spark and joy and everything. I was just amazed at how, where'd you get that?
That's just my sunny disposition. It's always been there.
But where does it come from?
I've always been this way. And that's one of the things, like, I've always been quite cheery and very positive. My dad's like the most positive person in the world, so I get that from him.
Yeah,
he's like a big lovey.
Is he?
Oh, he's the hugger of the family. And he's so darling. He used to work in hospitality for London Television. So he's very like, come in and let me ply me with wine and give you hugs and love. And he's just lovely.
Right.
But he's got a very positive demeanour about him. And he had a stroke about 5 years ago, but he's still so positive, He has his own struggles now, but he's always like, oh, hello, even though I can't speak properly. Oh, hello, come on in.
So he's kind of,
it's still the same. It's still in there.
If your father sees this and he's just seen me go, hello,
that's kind of, he'll laugh.
He'll probably laugh.
He would laugh.
What's your mother like?
She's the total opposite. She was adopted when she was a toddler. She was adopted quite late on. And I think she has issues with showing emotion and she doesn't like hugging or anything like that. She's really kind of...
Your mother and father still together?
No, they're not. They're still friends. They've never had an unhappy upbringing or they weren't fighting or anything, but they're very different.
Right.
And mum shows her love in other ways, like she loves to provide, And she loves, like, she took in friends off the streets when we were younger and had them living with us, and she features a feeder, Like she had different ways of showing affection, but she's not very intimate.
Right.
So they're very, very different.
So looking at that mix then, so you've got this very buoyant you from your father. Did your mother give you, therefore, the, you would bring anybody into your world? I mean, is that how you also love?
Yes, I love, like, providing for people, and sometimes I'm a little bit of a people pleaser, which is a good thing but can also be a bad thing. So
yes. Well, especially if you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Please feel free to just...
It's a very comfy couch.
Yeah, I know. It's
slouchy.
It was designed for patience. So on this journey, here you are, WOMAD. You didn't dance very much. You've been diagnosed. Chemo comes along.
Oh, yeah. So chemo was really shit. And it didn't work. So they didn't know. When I got diagnosed, they knew I had stage 3C, they called it. And then after the chemo, they thought it was initially they thought it was a very aggressive form of cancer. But they weren't sure. They were like, it might be the slow-moving low-grade one or it might be the aggressive one. The good thing about the aggressive one is that it's curable, and the slow-moving one, there's no cure for it, basically. So we're just going to give you
effectively,
chemo.
we asked for an aggressive cancer.
Yeah, I was kind of like, great, give me the aggressive one.
Dear God, please.
That'd be great. So they gave me the chemotherapy, and then because the chemotherapy didn't work, that's how they know that it's called low-grade serous carcinoma, which is the rare type. Can
you say that slower? And I'm sure I heard it fine.
Low-grade serous carcinoma.
Serous?
Yeah, so SEROUS, serous. And that is the rare type I have.
Right.
But the downside to that is that chemo doesn't work. So we got 3 rounds into chemotherapy. And it's cumulative.
Yeah.
So the first round, you're like, cool, I've got this. Like you take steroids and then you go in on your drip for 6 hours, and the steroids are they made me very angry. Poor Shane. And very hungry, weirdly. But then I had no appetite, so I was like eating a bite of a pie and then throwing it away and being like, have a bite of a cookie. And anyway, I digress. Yeah, the chemotherapy, then you have the first couple of days where you feel like absolute arse.
Yeah.
And then you have like the sickness. And then the second week is when you lose your hair. Right. And then the third week, and your immunity is really, really low down. So you can't be around sick people. And then third week, you're fine. So you get a week of like okayness, and then you do your next round. So I did 3 rounds of that.
So you said the second week you start to lose your hair.
Yeah, so second week into chemo, I started, like, I'd pull on my hair and it would just start coming out in clumps. I actually cut it first. I had really long hair, and then because I knew I was going to lose it anyway, I thought, well, why not experiment a little bit? So I always wanted to have a bob. Well, I used to be fat when I was younger, and I got a bob. My mum cut my hair into a bob and a fringe once, and I just was mortified. I was like this little fat girl with a bob and a fringe, and I cried for ages. And obviously, I'm not that fat girl anymore. So I was like, I'm going to have a bob. I'm going to try it and see what happens. I'm going to lose my hair anyway. So I went out and got a really expensive haircut and enjoyed having a bob and a fringe for like a week. And then it started coming out. And as it was falling out, I realised that I was just completely unprepared for this happening. Like, I knew it was going to happen, but I didn't have a plan of action. I had bought a wig, but I didn't have like any headscarves or anything like that. And I said to my boyfriend, like, I don't know what to do. And he was like, well, we'll just shave it off. Like, it's the most casual thing in the world.
Yeah.
Like, strangely eager, standing like with the clippers, like, I can't wait to get at me. But I think he just doesn't understand, obviously, what it feels like to be feminine in your hair. And as a female, like, your hair is a big part of your feeling like a woman, you know, and feeling, it shouldn't be, that's what society says. But yeah, feeling kind of, I can't think of the word, but yeah, like a lady, elegant. And so I called my friends and I said to him, I'm not ready to do this right now. He put the clippers away and we decided to get a curry and some wine, and I invited my girlfriends over because it was the sort of scenario where you just need some girls around. So Hannah, Esther and Heidi came and we ate some curry and drank some
Hannah,
wine.
Esther and Heidi?
Yeah.
I don't know who the hell you are, but
They're great.
thank you for that curry.
They're great, and they shaved my head.
Well, that's brilliant.
And then we were all sort of standing around with the bald head, and they were like, it's all right, babes. I'm like, it is all right, isn't it? It's like, yeah, you're rocking it.
So this picture that we're seeing on screen right now, the one with with your hair kind of...
Completely bald.
Well, yeah, you got strands of it.
Yeah, that was weird because you shave your head, but then obviously the rest falls out on its own.
Yeah.
And I had these little baby strands that were almost like new hair that were just sort of hanging in there.
That's what it looks like.
And they were really blonde.
No, where was that taken?
That was taken at the hospital on my third round of chemo, I think. Yeah. So that was, because it's accumulative, the first round I kind of just sprung back. Second round, what people don't tell you, they give you a whole list of side effects, but no one tells you you're just going to feel completely flat. Like the first day after you have what my experience was of having the chemo is that I just couldn't feel anything. I just had no emotion.
Did you take the anti-sickness pills, the anti-nausea pills?
Yeah. And if you don't, you get really nauseous. So
And was there any time when you missed taking those or anything and were...
That's the third round. That's when it was starting to get bad. But I hadn't missed taking them. I think it just gets to a point, each time it gets worse and worse. And if you take your pills and then your nausea is stronger than the steroids, then you throw up your pills, and then it's really hard to get back into a routine where it's controlled. So the third round, I just couldn't keep anything down. And that's when I was starting to look very sick.
Right.
And I think that's generally the case for people who do chemo. Usually people do about 8 rounds. By the time you get to the 8th round, the skin on your hands is very thin. You've lost all your hair. You've lost lots of weight. You get lots of ulcers on your mouth and tongue. And
oh, my God, yes, that's right.
yeah, it's all the little things.
Yeah.
But in some ways, obviously annoying that you can't cure my cancer with chemo, but also very glad that I don't have to do it anymore.
Well, I mean, I relate to that completely because my wife, she decided not to do the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
She just said, no, I've had enough. They're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And in actual fact, we had the x-rays and, the scan. And, cancer had shrunk, hadn't gone away. But that's just, you're bringing back some things to me when you talk about those mouth ulcers, the thin skin.
It's all the little things.
All those little things.
Just had bottles of hand cream everywhere in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
lip balm.
And all I wanted to eat was potato chips and digestive biscuits because you've got no taste. You don't want any flavour.
Yeah.
You just want salt.
Yeah.
So, which is weird for me because I love food. So I found that very odd. So it'd be like, what do you want from the supermarket? Can you get some frozen mash, some hash browns and some potato chips? It's like, so all of the potatoes, yes please. That was just what I lived off. Yeah, That's the easy convenience food that is just crave potatoes all the time for some reason.
That's really interesting. I remember when my wife was pregnant, on one of our children, all she could eat was lettuce.
Really?
Oh my gosh. So no, don't eat anything, just lettuce. I mean, I have 5, 6 lettuces. I mean, I open up the fucking fridge and there, what do you want? Iceberg?
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your body knows what you want, what it wants.
Yeah.
So, and that's something I've struggled with. The hardest thing for me with having the cancer is you get a lot of well-meaning advice from people about your diet and your lifestyle.
God, don't you ever.
I know, and I know they're just trying to be nice and helpful and everything. And it's the same with the internet. Like, I have done my own research, and I was very healthy before. I mean, I still eat meat, but mostly I didn't really eat any dairy. Most of my food was organic. I exercised all the time. That was just part of my lifestyle, and I still got cancer. Yeah. So now, oh God, it just grates me so much. But people try to give me food advice and stuff. It just really annoys me. Yeah. And I found that the hardest thing is not having a defined path on how to take care of yourself. Like, always feeling like you might be doing something wrong, or might be like not doing the right thing by yourself, or not following the right diet, or, you know, because there's so much advice out there and it's so conflicting. And
because there's a real, I remember one particular guy in the UK who I absolutely love. I love him more today than I did at the time.
Yeah.
Because I know his heart is big. And it was quite funny because I became the very person that I didn't want to become before my wife's death. Because I didn't think my wife was going to die, so I was in denial.
Yeah, you hadn't come to terms with it.
I hadn't come to terms. I hadn't come to terms with it for a long time, you know. And but one of the things people would do, just like you said, was out of the kindness of their hearts and the huge concern. And I remember there were 2 men in my life, both died. One about 67, one my age. Very good friend, lovely Nigerian man who was always like this, you know, in a beautiful, and I love his wife. Ore, if you watch this, I just want you to know that totally with you all the way. She lost her husband, my friend Tunde, 6 months after my wife. Yeah. And I was such a fool because I was doing the thing that I didn't want anybody else to do. I said, hey man, have you tried this?
Yeah.
And I think we all fall into this kind of thing because we want to care. But really, if I could say some words to myself at that time, I know you care, but shut the fuck up because you don't know anything. Honestly, I really would. I would just say, come on.
Shane did the same thing with me when I was first diagnosed, where there was a blog written by somebody in the States, because in the States, obviously, if you don't have money, you don't really have the healthcare. And I think there is probably some truth in this for certain forms of cancer, but who knows? There's been some studies into carrot juice and it shrinking tumours. And he had me drinking 1.5 litres of carrot juice every day.
You were bloody orange.
Oh, I did. No, I did actually went orange. Legit. I had like a permatan. It was like an orange tan.
Maybe Donald Trump has a carrot fetish.
Yeah, it was constant.
Right.
Yeah, I think he probably does. But if you don't have the money for a holiday and you can't afford any spray tan, then just eat loads of carrots. But it became a real point of contention in our house because he would come home with bags of carrots and he'd be like, have you had the carrots? And I'd be like, oh, I can't eat the carrots. I'm so done with the carrots. It's hard. And he would be really annoyed. He's like, I don't care. We're going to save you. You know, like he just really doesn't want me to go anywhere, I think is the main thing. And that was his way of coping. And then it came out that I had the low-grade form of cancer, the one that's the incurable one that moves slower. And that's a hormonal form of cancer, which doesn't make any difference.
Which is estrogen related?
Basically, the cancer feeds off estrogen.
Right.
So.
Now, can we move to that? Because you're taking a drug called tamoxifen.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about tamoxifen, about what you know.
So tamoxifen is usually given to breast cancer patients. Generally, it's used once someone's in remission to stop them from having a recurrence. Because the type of cancer I've got is quite rare, this is used, but there's a few other things that are used. So it's tried and tested. It seems to be working, but it's not. I'm not using it because I'm in remission. I'm just using it to keep it at bay.
Right.
So it's not necessarily going to shrink my tumours. It's not. And it hasn't really so far. It's just supposed to keep me stable and keep me kind of ticking on. And anything else is a bonus. And if it does shrink anything, it will be at a very, very slow rate.
Right.
So I don't think, although this would be lovely, I don't think I'll ever be one of those people that goes into the doctors, has a scan and is like, oh, you got the all clear, wow, it's a miracle.
Yeah,
It'll be very, very slow, and that is frustrating. So tamoxifen cuts off the estrogen receptors on your cells so that the cancer can't feed off the estrogen. Essentially, they're just estrogen blockers.
Right.
And there's other types as well. So some postmenopausal women take a similar thing, but it's just called something else. And it's okay. It's all right. It's taken a while to get used to. It's the side effects mimic menopause.
Yeah.
Which I haven't had too many of them. Like a lot of people get hot flushes. I haven't experienced any of that, so I'm quite lucky in that respect. But I
think that's your personality. You're always flushed.
Flushed? Oh, I'd probably enjoy a hot flush. So it's interesting. It just makes me, I'm not very in control of my emotions sometimes.
Right.
So, because your hormones just control everything. They control your emotions, your weight.
Right.
Chucked my scales out the window in the bin because there's just no point. Like go up and down with the bloating and everything.
Good
as well.
on you.
So it's just managing my mood, and I get very emotional sometimes. But I have found I've been on these for a year now, and just in recent months, I'm definitely starting to feel like I'm back to my old self again. And and managing the symptoms and knowing if you're about to have like a bit of a meltdown, when that's going to happen, and where to if you have to remove yourself from a certain situation, then it's a good time to do so. Sometimes I just go home from work if I'm having a bad day.
And you've got really a very aware work environment.
They're amazing.
Right.
I'm so blessed with my work. They've just been absolutely incredible. I have unlimited sick pay, and they are very, very flexible with how I work. So I work from home on a Wednesday. I can work from home whenever I want, really. Last time I spoke to my manager, she's like, just checking in to see how you're doing. I know that we've got the Wednesday when you work from home, but don't feel like that's because of what we've got. That's what you need to do. Like if you wake up and you're having a bad day, then...
Right.
And, sometimes I do forget, I think, that I've got the cancer, which is good because I can just go about my normal day. But then every so often you get like super overloaded with stuff and you're like, I'm feeling pretty tired today. But it's just about being open and honest, I think, and telling them.
What a wonderful position to be in. So you have some lovely support there. So let's go a little bit deeper. You wake up in the morning, and now you've got the rest of your life ahead of you. And you've got pills to take.
Yeah.
Breakfast to have.
Yeah, got to take food with your pills.
And let's just say it's a day off.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have time to think. What are you planning for, Jenny?
In life or for the day?
Well, why don't we go for the day? No, don't go for the day. That's so... I'm hoping that by the end of this, you will still be here. So can you do that? Can you think that way? Can you think of the future?
I can't think of the future in the way that I used to think about the future. Like I used to see the future as this like distant, far off thing and be like, one day we'll get a house. And I mean, initially it was like, we'll have kids and we'll do this and we'll do that. And when I was diagnosed, the first thing I said to my partner was, well, what does our future look like now? Because I need to know what I'm trying to strive for. Like, what am I fighting for? Because we're not going to have the kids and we're not going to have this idea. We had this idea in our head of what it was all going to look like. And now when I think of future, I probably think about 2 years ahead,
right?
Like 10 years ahead.
Just sorry to bring it back, but the tamoxifen has a kind of record of keeping people going for a period of time, right?
Yeah, well, it depends on the person a lot of the time. I've asked this question a few times. So they basically say you will keep you stable for years as opposed to weeks or months.
Right.
But no one tells you how long many years that is. It's just kind of till it stops working. So,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, when I wake up in the morning, if I'm thinking about my day, I have a bit of a list of things that I try and do for myself just to manage my symptoms better and make my life better and create some emotional and mental clarity, which are things like meditating every day.
Cool.
Singing every day now, doing my singing exercises. And exercising every day. And the day-to-day things, pact that I did make to myself when all this happened was to just do more of the things that I love.
Right.
So that's why I started taking singing lessons. It's why I'm buying a puppy. Yeah, just things like that where, you put these things off, but it's like, well, why? If not now, then when? These are things that are actually going to bring you joy right now. So why are you not doing them? Spending time with my family is a big one and talking to them more. They live over in the UK. So I speak to someone from home every day and I go home twice a year, which is expensive, but I mean, it's worth it.
Right.
So yeah, I think day-to-day things like that, but long-term, my future and the things, my plans are usually like, this year we're going over to the UK and we're stopping in Dubai on the way. This year I'm going to do singing lessons. This year, just things that are going to bring you pleasure straight away, not things that are far away. And also things like buying a house used to be a really big thing for us, but now I'm like, well, it's more important to spend time with family than, say, the house deposit. So, or have experiences.
I'm selling my house, studio and everything right now.
Yes, go travelling. Yeah, experiences are more important than owning a box, owning something that's not necessarily, we don't really need a big house. We're not going to have a big family or anything. So,
but you're part of mine.
Yes, and I've got a great rental property at the moment with amazing landlords, this elderly couple who I'm really close with, and I've got a really good situation. But everyone's in such a rush to buy a house, and it's just the worst time to buy. So I just
but one of the attractions about you, I think, in terms of, I see blessings coming to people who feel as though there's lots of blessings. If you don't count them, you don't see them.
Yeah.
And that is in no way minimizing people's suffering in any way. But I can't help but see it. You tend to attract that which you are grateful for.
Yeah, it takes a conscious effort to be grateful for stuff, though, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, one of the things I teach as a singing teacher is as you're taking breath in, be amazed at your damn lungs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so small, but really be amazed. I'm actually teaching you right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking about my lungs right now.
Right now, right? I mean, just think about that and how incredibly inventive nature is. Did I just say nature? I just said nature.
Oh, darling.
Oh, no, you don't want me smoking. Sorry. But, you think about what we do take for granted. The capacity to breathe. Here's these things. They're vacuumers. We just do this. And air drops in. We don't actually have to consciously say, right, I need to descend my diaphragm, the larynx must drop, and the lungs must expand, adhere to the pleura. You don't have those thoughts. It happens automatically. And I think that's something, I mean, we're not grateful for it because we just take it for granted. How about you now? Are you more grateful?
Yes, more grateful. The bar has changed.
Yes. Yeah.
Very much so. Like, if I can I'm looking forward to WOMAD this weekend, but I'll be really grateful if I can get through the weekend without my arse starting to hurt. Or,
right.
Said
the actress to the bishop.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons. So
I can't believe I just...
Strangely, though, I'm very annoyed at my body sometimes, I'm also very grateful for it. And I think that... growing up and just being an adult through life and being so harsh on our bodies, and for so long I've always exercised and always eating well and stuff like that. But I think a lot of the time my exercise was more based on like not being happy with what my body currently is and trying to like not punish it, but make it different or stay toned or like look a certain way. And actually now I'm very much of that's actually not self-love. Like self-love is actually just being really grateful for the very fact that your body is doing what it's supposed to do to survive, which is your general breathing, your amazing lungs. Like I'm just grateful if, I can get through the weekend without any pain.
You're a very strong woman. I mean, physically strong. I mean, I remember when we started those, so one of the things I do as a singing teacher, as you know, is to get all my students on the floor and they do leg raises. But you did those without any problem. I mean, I've had 16-year-old kids who go, oh, fuck, I can't get these legs up,
Yeah.
But you're very strong, your core's strong.
Yeah,
You've got a good
exercised.
posture.
Have to work on standing up straight. I've always exercised. I think that now I'm not able to do a lot of the exercise I used to be able to do just because I used to run a lot. I used to run all the time, but the hormones that I take now, the drugs I take now, because your ovaries affect your hormones, and when you run, you're going into a fight or flight sort of response.
Yeah.
It can cause me to get really breathless, not at the time of running, but later on, like that sort of panicky feeling where you feel like you can't get a full breath in. So I've had to stop doing that, which is a bit annoying. And after chemo, you're kind of at zero, so it's taken a really long time to get back into exercise again. And at first, loads of people were saying to me, you should exercise because it'll be really good for your cancer. And I was like, bugger off.
Yes, I know you mean well, but fuck off.
Yeah, do you know how hard it is to exercise when your body is at zero? You've got no strength. And the fatigue of having the cancer as well. And now I've started going to the gym and I've started doing exercise again. And what I've found is that I've actually just really felt like my old self again, not doing it because of cancer, but just being like, oh, it's so nice to be doing this again because this is what I always did. Not because I feel like I should be doing it. And I'm not doing it now to like have a flatter tummy or like feel like I look good. It's more about having that sense of identity that's involved in taking care of yourself and self-care.
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm very, very, I am grateful for everything, but the bar is different, I would say. Yeah.
But it seems like a higher bar, actually, not a lower one.
I feel like I have to put like less mental effort in. I don't get hung up about things like forcing myself to go for this run anymore. Like I used to be really like every morning before work, 6K run, then yoga after work and sometimes a class at lunchtime, and really like I have my tick sheets of what the things that I have to do every day. And
but that's a very stressful situation to put yourself into.
Yes.
I mean, and stress is one of the things that...
The fight or flight response again.
That sets you up for cancer in many ways.
Disease and stress is very closely linked.
Yeah, very much. I mean, so last week I was speaking to Brooke, who was talking about, his life. He was obese and that, he used to comfort eat.
Yes, I did watch that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so that stress relation, that idea of stress, and it's not being able to coordinate stress in such a way that it benefits you wholly.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where I think taking on the problems of life in a voluntary way, rather than having them happen to you.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things I think I see you doing, in spite of life happening to you, you aren't. And as I said this to Brooke also, but you aren't a victim.
Oh, that's good to know.
Well, you don't appear that way anyway, because I think that's the message that, you look at you with the bald head. I mean, let's look at that picture right now of you with the hat on.
Yeah.
Right? Cute, isn't it?
Yeah, a friend bought me that hat. But
Really?
It's a cutish one. I really didn't like having no hair. I've got a good selection of hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you look good in it.
Yeah.
And you look good with your short hair now.
Yeah, it's okay. It's come back curly. And
that's cool.
It's different. But yeah, it's interesting because that's another thing is obviously people being nice. Going back to work, people are always talking to me about my hair, which is lovely. But sometimes it's about 6 or 7 times a day, like
All
through
right.
the horn, and be like, oh, yeah, it's curly. Was it curly before? No, it wasn't curly before. It's curly now, though. Yeah, it's curly now. It's lovely that people
Is that
ask.
one of those moments when you go, oh, I know you
If one more person
care.
asks me about my hair today, I'm going to scream.
Fuck off again.
But, it's just, I sound like I'm being a bit of a bitch, and I am grateful for the support that I get at work.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just funny because we live in such an image-obsessed society that we shouldn't have to give a shit. It shouldn't matter, So, yes, my hair's curly.
But I think everybody wants to feel attractive, don't they?
Yeah.
I think everybody wants to feel attractive. And I've had countless conversations with men who are so inundated with the idea that, and I said this last week, this idea of just having the one ab, rather than the 6 to 8 pack abs, and equally women are flat tummies and, slender and having everything in proportion. And my God, now you could do a boob extension. And matter of fact, I was listening.
Very image obsessed.
Yeah, very. Matter of fact, I loved what Ricky Gervais said years ago. He said, oh God, they're having boob implants, they're having butt implants, and they're having penis extensions. He says, I've had to have a penis reduction. He goes, I've only got one now.
That's great.
Yeah, so, I just think that's brilliant. But, but I do think feeling attractive is important.
Yeah.
But I think there has to be a balance between just being okay.
Yeah, I think it's more about why you want to be attractive. Like, are you doing it because you give a shit what other people think? Or are you trying to be attractive to feel good about yourself?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the difference, probably.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, but did you say you're a bit of a people pleaser?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I don't know if I'm not a people. I wouldn't try and change my body for other people, but I'm always kind of trying to please everybody.
And cancer's such a bloody awful thing because, who the fuck has control over what the next day's going to bring?
Oh, well, a perfect example is just yesterday. Like, I got back from work, I was really fatigued, really tired. I was kind of teetering on the edge of meltdown kind of hormonal area. And I was feeling a bit low on myself because somebody asked me if I was pregnant at work. I was wearing a dress and he went, have you got something to tell us? And I went, no, that's just my stomach.
Oh, God.
And then I said to him, one of the symptoms of ovarian cancer is bloating. So thanks very much for drawing attention to that. But he's a bit of an idiot. He always has been. So I was feeling a bit low on myself.
You sure we want me to include that?
That's okay. He won't watch it. So I was feeling a bit low on myself anyway and feeling a bit bloated, and I have burns on my bum, so I was feeling quite sad about that.
Burn, baby, burn.
Blisters on my bum, feeling bloated. And then I went to eat. I was eating a carrot in the kitchen and I bit my own lip, and that was the final straw.
Oh.
I just completely, burst into tears and sat in a chair, and I was like, why does my body hate me? I just had a bit of a meltdown. And then I told Shane about it, and he said, what's wrong? I said, I ate a carrot and I bit my lip. And you've got to have a laugh. But yeah, there's days when feeling beautiful and feeling good in your body, like sometimes you just hate your body because you're just like fed up and fucking over it. And then there's other sides of it where it's like all the things that I thought were important about having a good body are like completely out the window now. They're just not important because I'm not trying to look good to please other people or to feel like other people will accept me. I want to look and feel good so that I've got more energy and I've got more strength. And so it's interesting.
So when I was listening to a philosopher and an economist called Thomas Sowell, and Thomas Sowell was talking about economy and how the further and further we get into the future, especially we were talking about universal basic income and how above and beyond a universal basic income, we should somehow have a meaning to life. Because if everybody, you give somebody money and there's no, that you don't build anything, where's your meaning? I know you may have already touched on this, but how has cancer added meaning to your life?
relationships, like, so much more meaningful. It comes back to taking things for granted, like, and not being grateful for stuff, I think. So I was diagnosed here. I've been doing a treatment here. My family are overseas, and I was very, very worried about being lonely during chemo, because if you're at home, your family pop in and out and I'll see you and that sort of thing. And when friends were asking, how can we help? My instant reaction was always, just drop in. I need you to not try and make plans with me, just drop in.
Right.
And if I'm awake, then you see me, and if you don't, you don't. And the network of people here in New Zealand that have always been here, around me, by the way, that have always been there, I just didn't see it, had just been incredibly overwhelming. Like, not just generosity of things like food trains and gifts and things like that, but just people being there and taking a genuine interest. So I think it's a positive change in that respect, because I'm so much more acutely aware of the people around me and the network around me and the power that has. And it's kind of got me thinking that actually communication with people and relationships are really what life's about. And it's just us that's overcomplicating everything with work and money and all these man-made sort of concepts. We're social beings. And, back in the dark ages, before we started printing money and making people do 9-to-5 work, we were just all hanging out together, Well,
in actual fact,
about community.
One of the things I talk about with my philosophical friends is, the depression and things that we face today was very, very different 250 years ago. Food was scarce. Men and women would be working cooperatively in their families to make sure they didn't starve the next day, right?
Yeah.
So you would be, so you'd have 13 kids. 6 of those would possibly die. Your mortality rate was between 30 and 40 years old. You were considered an old man if you'd reached 29. You'd be working on your farm or in your field or as a carpenter or whatever like this. And your 3 eldest sons, whatever would be working with you, and the daughters would be fetching water and stuff and making food to feed the rest of the family with the mum, So life was, the stresses that we faced were all about survival, and the meaning was right there in front of your face.
Yeah, you don't have to search for it.
That's right, you don't have to search for it. And most people were poor. Most people were.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no such thing as a middle class.
Yeah.
Most people were poor, but most people lived with meaning. The meaning was, I've got to keep my family alive.
Survival,
right. And so in those, the very essence of being a surviving and thriving society was community.
Yeah. Because you're working together to live the next day through.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you had communal on family basis. And then villages would be, like I say, the blacksmith, the cloth maker, all these kind of small villages would basically be working together, and somewhat competitively, but not in the way we see today. And the relationship idea was really based on a very basic thing. I need you.
Yeah, really need you.
I really need you.
Yeah.
Was it, a friend in need is a friend indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
And in fact, one of the blessings of disease is you really see the value of human life, not just your own, but that connectivity.
Yeah.
And I think the thing I love is that you've highlighted that today, probably more than anything else. I've got a great working environment. People are really supportive, even those people who want to say, fuck off, don't mention my hair again. Don't we care?
Yeah.
And you remember the I think it was Indonesian tsunami. You remember that tsunami? Right? 300,000 people died in that day, effectively. And I remember the British government saying at the time, we will match every pound that the public raise to a limit of £15 million, right? Well, the British government, the British Labour government at the time was put to shame because the British public within 24 hours had raised £50 million in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And it still kept coming in.
Yeah.
Well, the British government went, okay, we'll match it. So, I mean, because, if the government is saying,
now
oh,
it's suddenly important.
Yeah. But that shows you how incredibly, the hearts of people, we are really compassionate at our core.
Yeah.
And there's a massive amount of reciprocity that lays hidden beneath this daily grind.
Yeah. I think it's the daily grind that stops people from being generous. That's where the selfishness comes in, greed. And in my mind, a lot of that has to do with money and looking out for number one, like the panic buying that's happening at the moment with coronavirus.
Fucking toilet paper.
But it's just such a selfish mentality as well. It's like, I must make sure I've got enough toilet paper.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And like, screw everybody else. If the coronavirus
there's a lot of shit
comes,
going down.
yeah. Yeah, they manufacture toilet paper here. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But anyway, I don't.
There was a meme yesterday. I mean, look, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been seeing. I was watching Joe Rogan's podcast this morning, and he had a real qualified doctor from the States on, and he said, "Look, this is the case. We should be really alert." But don't fucking panic.
Yeah.
It is highly contagious.
Yeah.
And, don't get me wrong. But, surely you want to, come on, buy chocolate at least.
Be nice to people. Think about other people. Don't just buy everything.
Yes, I went into Pack and Save the other day and there was one whole aisle of toilet paper gone. It's not just happening in Australia and stuff.
It's very interesting.
So what a picture we've painted today. You are an ordinary person, but really extraordinary.
Oh, I thank you.
No, I think it's true because what you've been able to do, even if you said nothing, I think people could be able to see that there's an effervescence and a triumphant you that doesn't allow so many narratives. And I make, like I say, my wife passed away, okay? And one could easily buy into this is happening to me, therefore life is happening and I am a victim. And there's no doubt that you are the recipient of it.
Yeah.
Recipient of it.
It's unfortunate. I've never felt pissed off about it though, really.
No, right.
I get a little bit annoyed at my body sometimes when it can't do what it used to do.
Well, one of the things that was said to me was, Charles, you must fucking hate cancer. It's funny, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I've always thought of it as having a job.
Yes.
Like the Grim Reaper, standing there with a sickle or whatever it is, or a scythe, I can't remember what it was, sickle, in the dark hood going, right then, I'm on the doorstep. When you're ready to go, this will happen. And I'll take you along to whichever place we need to put you. And so I never thought about it as something I needed to hate because my wife grew through it.
Mm.
And after she passed away, I did too. And so it would be a mistake to say I'm grateful that she's gone because that's not true. But it was also a mistake to fill your life full of hate and bitterness and resentment for something which you can do nothing about.
Yeah, you've got no control over it, really.
And what I see in you is, well, I value life and I value the lessons.
Just try to make the most of it while it's still available.
Yeah.
I think the frustrating thing generally is that you can't control it. And particularly with this cancer, there isn't a cure, so that you can't control it really. There is also, within the cancer, some of the people that I've met and ways that I have grown through having cancer have a lot to do with meeting people within the cancer community as well who are also going through things and sharing with them, and that's helped me to cope. The cancer community has made everything like a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah.
But back to not being able, like not having control over stuff, it's like there's no point fighting that because there isn't anything you can do about it. I can keep trudging along to try and get drugs funded, which is something that a cancer charity that I've been fundraising for do, specifically for my type of cancer. So you can...
What's the link for that?
You can take steps to try and control it in that respect. It's called Cure Our Ovarian Cancer, and it was started by a woman called Jane, who's a similar age to me. And she, when she was diagnosed, started the charity herself and stopped working and just committed herself full-time to making money for research. Unfortunately, with the type of cancer that I have, because it's so rare, it doesn't get any funding. So you think when you get diagnosed, everyone always says, with all of the new technology and everything coming out now, you'll be fine. But when you actually look into it, there isn't anyone doing any trials or studies to try and fix this, because it's not financially, it's not worthwhile for the pharmaceutical.
Numbers matter, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, and also with the government funding that they have, of course they're going to use their money to fix as many people as possible.
That's
and
right.
I get that, I totally get that. But that doesn't mean, there's drugs that are already out there that are being used for different types of cancers that are already available for like melanoma, the specific one I'm looking at the moment, Tresinib it's called. And that's funded for melanoma, but it hasn't been tested for this, so it's not funded. And the testing and the clinical trials are the expensive thing, and the research.
Right, so we need to fund that, do we?
So at the moment, fundraising for that, and Jane is trying to approach Pharmac to get it funded.
Right.
There's only been one clinical trial.
Well, I'll put the description in the link.
Yes,
and then we can see if we can help a little bit along the way.
And there's also the drug itself. At the moment, if I wanted to take it, I would have to pay for it, which costs, it's not as much as some cancer drugs. It's about $2,100 a month, but you'd be taking it for about 10 months. So.
Right.
So it's that
Have you
sort
got
of
a personal
stuff.
fund yourself? Have you got something?
I haven't started that yet.
Have you?
I'm going to be doing more fundraising. I've been fundraising just for this cancer charity,
right?
But for research. But I am now
Jenny,
starting a crowdfunder for my own treatment.
Jenny, we are doing it. We are doing it. Okay, share this fucking video and get that fucking thing done.
Yeah,
I'll tell
I need to get it on.
I want you to live a life full of sharing this story.
Yeah.
Overcoming. I want your face to be on covers of magazines.
The more people that are able to fund their own treatment for this and have it work, the more examples there are of it working.
That's
that
right.
You can then show to Pharmac and say, come on, fund it.
Yeah.
And, it's available. It's readily available. It's approved because it's used for melanoma. But it's just so it's close, but just there's a bit of a disconnect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Humans.
Yeah, but then it's interesting because all this stuff is important, but it's important also not to let the cancer completely consume your whole life as well. So I just spent all my time looking at treatments and looking at fundraising, and I put a lot of time and energy into that. But if you're spending all your time doing that and you're going to end up not being successful in the end anyway, and not curing yourself or living a long life, then you've wasted the short time that you did have obsessing about cancer. So it's finding that balance between the two.
Really, you've got to do it on your own terms.
Yeah, following your intuition is the biggest thing. That I'm not listening to, taking on board what people say, but not taking it.
In a way, you can do. It's a massive polite nod, saying
and registering it. If it sticks with me and I feel like my intuition gravitates towards it, then yes, but just not following anything on blind faith. Yeah.
And I did that for a number of years. But that's another discussion.
That's a story for another day.
Jenny, look, I think we've done very well in looking at you, and I think I'd love to have you back and just, maybe 6 months or so, and just see how you feel, how you're doing, maybe have a shorter time for us to discuss. But I think you've been an inspiration for people just listening to you. And listening to your fucking laugh.
Oh, thanks. That hasn't changed.
Stop. No, but it's good. And I think people really need to realise they can laugh through this.
That's the only way to get through it.
As hard as it is. I was speaking to, this was years ago, there was a policeman that I knew. He was a homicide detective. And I said, what do you do? And he says, when you're faced with dead bodies and things. And he says, there's a woman and she's got severed hands. And I have people reporting back to me on the scene. And they would either vomit and cry, but instead they come back. They go, Sarge or Sir, she ain't going to be doing the washing up.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds, like, oh, that's terrible. How could they say that? But it's the only way in which they cope.
Yeah.
Is to actually make light of something that's so deeply disturbing.
Yeah.
And in a way, although we're not trying to make light of you and your cancer, actually acknowledging that you're still here, you're still loving life, you're going to bloody WOMAD. I'm jealous.
It's going to be amazing.
I'm jealous. So instead, I'm going to a movie.
Just do some dancing in your living room.
I do.
Put some Middle Eastern music on or something.
What? I'll start doing my beatbox. So, Jenny, look, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. And donate to Jenny's cause. Yes, both of them.
Cure ovarian cancer.
Cure ovarian
That's the name
cancer.
of the charity.
And remember, you can follow this channel. Please like, subscribe, share this with others. Share Jenny's story, because there are so many people out there who need that little bit of upliftment that they can get through it in this rare form.
Yes.
Wow. You
Yeah,
know?
very unfortunate. But I always say, like I play the lottery now and I never did before. Shane's like, you're never going to win. I'm like, I was never going to get cancer, but got to be in it to win it. So
That's right.
Might as well.
Yes.
What's $6 a week?
$6 a week. The drug is $2,000.
Yeah.
Right?
Could win.
I could. All right. So thank you so much. It's been lovely speaking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, stop.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, isn't it amazing? This was the dustbin day.
Well, I haven't heard any bins.
I've heard nothing. This has been the most quiet studio in a day ever.
Perfect.
I can't believe it. I remember doing it a couple of weeks ago and I had to edit out the sound. So thank you for bringing such wonderful luck.
Thank you.
All right. Jenny, fist pump. Boom. Cut. I want to thank all the Patreon, PayPal, YouTube and Facebook subscribers for supporting this channel, along with those who have already casually found the purple chair. Please like, subscribe and press the notifications bell. That really helps the channel and it lets you know when new content is available. The purple chair interviews are for you, hoping to inspire you in your own endeavours. If you haven't already signed up to the other channels, a list of them is available in the description.